Good evening. I'm Dr. Michael Twyman, a board-certified cardiologist. Also been known at times to be the biohacking cardiologist. So tonight, I can talk a little bit about how to optimize body composition and weight loss without using surgical means or pharmaceuticals. So it's been over a year since the pandemic began and many places went on lockdown. It's also been a year since The Tiger King was on Netflix. So if you remember The Tiger King, that was probably about the time that people started to put on weight last year when they were stuck inside watching that Netflix trash and eating a bunch of junk at the same time. So, if you've gained the freshman 15 or the COVID 20, tonight's talk is going to go about some of my up-to-date tips and tricks on how to optimize body composition without using pharmaceuticals or surgical interventions. So we got somebody joining on here. Probably talking about 75 hard, day 8. That is outstanding. That's the current program I'm currently doing. I think I'm day 43 on 75 hard. 75 hard is not a weight loss program. It's a mental conditioning program. But if you do it to the T, you will likely change your body composition doing this program. Down a couple pounds, not a lot, but more body fat percentage down than when I started the program. So if anybody has interest in 75 hard, I've done previous talks on it, but also just shoot me a DM and I'll let you know the details on it. But I also want to talk tonight about some things that are not necessarily intuitive. It is not calories in, calories out, or starving yourself to change your body composition. I have a friend, she's famous for saying, people are not over fat, they're under muscled. So you need to focus on building and maintaining muscle mass. That's one of the reasons I'm doing more strength training during this round of 75 hard than I did last time. I was probably doing too much cardio and burned through a lot of my muscle mass. My metabolic engines weren't working that well then. So you will need to focus on optimizing your muscle mass. We'll get into that tonight. So welcome, got a couple more people joining. And we're gonna kind of just keep cruising along. This is always being recorded. This will be up on my Instagram channel at the end. Also be up on YouTube starting tomorrow. So welcome, thank you guys for joining tonight. So, what is the purpose of food? Food is information for the body. It tells you what season it is, tells you what is going to be basically digested sunlight into your system. So photosynthesis from the sun grows the plants. You either eat the plants or you eat the animals that ate the plants, and your body decodes that information. Essentially your mitochondria, the organelles in your cells, they make energy for you. They decode that information like a barcode scanner. So the real purpose of food is information, yes, and some energy. But I'm gonna tell you that the light that you let into your eyes, hit your skin, and basically food, when it hits your gut, is telling your gut, the light environment that's outside, that is at least as important as what food that goes into your mouth, and potentially is even more important according to some authors and researchers. So start with the basics, circadian rhythms, your 24-hour cycle. Talked about this a lot. So it's mostly programmed by the light that enters your eyes and the timing that your nutrients come in. Not gonna talk so much about the light in your eyes tonight, and one reason I'm not wearing the glasses, my windows are open, I got sunlight right in my face right now. So that somewhat balances out a little bit of this blue light running off my screen, and I'm running some software on my screen, so there's not a whole lot of blue light that I'm seeing right now. So you gotta get your light environment right if you want to get optimal body composition. So how do you do this? If you're up before sunrise, you put on blue blocking glasses to keep telling your brain it's dark. Then the sun rises, you go outside, take your glasses off, don't have contacts in, don't have glasses on, face east, ideally 20 minutes or so, let the sun enter your eyes. That light coming into your eyes in the morning is blue light, red light, green light, it's all balanced. That light goes through your eye, hits something called the supracosmatic nucleus and keeps going, and eventually gets to your pituitary and basically turns on a hormone cascade for the day, telling you what time of day it is, and you make your hormones and your neurotransmitters based off that signal. So the body then starts knowing what time of day it is. Throughout the day, you go outside and check in with Mother Nature to let your body know what time of day it is by the light hitting your eyes and your skin. When you're inside, in front of your technology, or under artificial lights, again, you put on the glasses that filter out the blue light. Ideally, it's going to block up to probably 450 to 465 nanometers of blue light. So the glasses tint will have to be somewhat yellow. They cannot be completely clear, or they're not actually having the effect. Then sun sets. You ideally would continue to wear those glasses that are yellow, Or at that point, if they're not too effective for you, put on the red tinted lenses. The red tinted lenses will block up to 550 nanometers, blocks all blue light, most of green light, and then that starts telling the signal in your brain, it's nighttime. It starts letting cortisol drop and melatonin rise. And melatonin initiates sleep. But melatonin is also essentially the fuel for the mitochondria to repair themselves while you sleep. Your mitochondria, as you guys know, are the things that make energy for you. They do a lot of other things, but think of them as your engines in your car. You have to take care of your engine. If your engines don't work well, it does not matter if you're putting in premium gas and throwing in the STP, fuel boosters. Your engines suck. You're not going to lose weight. You have to mind your engines. So think about, if you want to optimize your body composition, you have to optimize your mitochondrial function. And the number one way to do that is optimize your light environment. So in the evening time, you switch the red glasses. For me, I will fall asleep within an hour of throwing them on. So I wait till about an hour before I go to bed. Then, overnight, if you have to get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom for some reason, put on your glasses, or kind of the biohacker supreme way is have red light bulbs on in the bathroom or wherever you need to go in the middle of the night. That way it doesn't disrupt your melanopsin receptors in your eye and tell you it's daytime. Your body really wants approximately 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. It's going to vary throughout the seasons. We've talked about timing of meals in multiple other talks, time-restricted eating. So this is not intermittent fasting. This is not starving yourself. It's just compressing your feeding window throughout the day. The simplest way to think of it is eat it when the light is out. You would like, ideally, not start eating until after sunrise and be done close to sunset. Try to eat in a 12-hour window, maybe even a 10-hour window or less if you can. Start there. You haven't even heard me mention proteins, fats, or carbohydrates yet. Those are coming, but you got to get the light environment right and the timing of the meals as well. So, alluded to a little bit that food is decoded sunlight. It basically tells you what season it is. Carbohydrates grow in high light cycles. So high UV grows carbohydrates. So in the Midwest where I'm at, there's 4 seasons. There's certain fruits that do not, come around in the wintertime unless they're shipped up from Chile or Mexico. So the best way to think about eating is you should try to eat as seasonally as possible. So that precludes stuff coming out of boxes and cans, obviously. But shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, eating what's local to what your farmers nearby could grow would be ideal. What could your ancestors 150 years ago eaten? They would have walked outside, they picked something out of their garden, they picked it from a tree, they went and hunted it, they went and fished. That is what you're ideally set up to eat that time of year. When you eat something out of season, it is not necessarily going to kill you, but it's a mismatch of information. So, famous example, one of my colleagues talks about, eating a banana in December in St. Louis would not be, wise circadian evolution. That banana was grown in the summertime, definitely wasn't grown in St. Louis. So it's a lot of sunlight that's now into your stomach. Your eyes and your skin is feeling the winter in St. Louis. There's a mismatch of information. The mitochondria don't work as well when they get that mismatch of information. So try to eat seasonally. I also talk about eating from sunup to sundown, if at all possible. This is a little bit actually easier during the days of the pandemic. Is that many restaurants force people to only eat outside. That's actually the only place you really would like to eat outside, if at all possible, is having your meals with the light hitting your skin and eyes, telling your body what time of day it is. When you eat in front of your blue lit screen, you're blasting your eyes and your skin, telling you it's noontime. You're going to make your hormones and neurotransmitters differently. Just staring at your blue lit screen is going to raise your insulin levels, raise your glucose, irrespective of what you're putting in your mouth. So, am I saying you're going to become diabetic staring at your phone? Maybe not fully diabetic, but you're likely to be insulin resistant if you do it enough, and potentially even turn on to prediabetes. So, what you put in your mouth is important, but the light is as important, if not more important. And we'll talk about some places you can get the glasses when we're done chatting tonight. One thing I did want to talk about tonight was leptin. Leptin is a hormone. It's made in your fat cells. It was only discovered in 1994. Leptin is a hormone that essentially is a regulator of your energy balance. Think of a gas gauge in your car. It lets your body know, are you full, are you empty? It's made in the fat cells, and it goes to the brain, and it goes to the hypothalamus and tells you, everything's good or not good. So in times of starvation, you'd be losing weight, you'd be losing fat mass, your leptin levels would be low, and your body should have a naturally set level leptin. So whatever the blood levels of leptin are, they're going to be more set point to you. So there might not be an average leptin for everybody, but there's a leptin level for you. And if you're starving yourself, you pull the leptin down too acutely, the body thinks it's starving, which it actually is, and then the brain will not make hormones effectively, definitely reproductive ones, because the body shouldn't be getting ready to have a baby by making, all the new cells and things that the baby's going to need if there's starvation for the mother. So if you're starving yourself and attempt to optimize your body composition, you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot long term because you're going to jack with your natural set point of leptin. Many years ago, the drug companies were trying to develop, leptin, probably would be leptin injections, and thought that was going to be the magic weight loss, treatment. And it turns out it's not. It's not exactly. It's very similar to being insulin resistant. Majority of people who are diabetic and insulin resistant aren't lacking insulin. Their pancreas can make insulin. They make tons of insulin, but the body doesn't listen to that signal. And that's essentially what happens with leptin resistance. Your fat cells pump out all this leptin into your bloodstream, goes to the brain, and the brain is blinded to it. And so it'd be like driving your car without broken gas gauge. Your body has no idea what the energy stores are, so it's guessing. So you probably overeat because you're thinking like, well, maybe I need some more gas. Maybe I need some more gas for the engines. And your body doesn't get that signal that, oh, I have enough, shut down and go back to that natural set point. And if you have enough energy and you have a few extra pounds of fat, your body then will jettison that fat because it doesn't need it, because it knows it has enough that's coming in through your nutrition, and you have whatever percent body fat your body's supposed to be at. So that's essentially leptin. Leptin, one of my colleagues, Dr. Cruz, basically talks about leptin resistance, fixing it with, without surgery, using light to fix your brain, but also a lot of the timing of your meals will have an effect on it. There's something that we're going to talk about, which I'll go now, is cold thermogenesis or cold therapy. So I'm not necessarily recommending this unless you're my patient and you talk to me personally about it, but go do your own due diligence on this. But cold therapy can have an effect on making your mitochondrial engines work better. I've done previous talks about mitochondria and respiratory proteins. The closer those respiratory proteins are close together, the more energy, or I should say the faster the energy goes through the mitochondria. So at the end of the respiratory chain, there's this little top. The faster it spins, the more energy comes out. The cold therapy brings those together, can make that top spin faster. So the plastic surgeons developed a technique called Coolsculpting a few years ago. They use these very elaborate plates, steel plates, that they cool down dramatically, put it targetly over the abdomen, and they literally freeze the fat cells. The fat cells then shrink away, and the body absorbs them over time, and then the body is sculpted in a different manner. And so this is one of the few ways you could actually target weight loss. The majority of things, if you starve yourself and try to believe in this calories in, calories out is the be-all end-all of weight loss, your body's going to take probably some drastic measures, and you're going to eat into your muscles. You're going to lose fat in places you didn't want to lose it. You're going to keep it in places you don't want it. So you can't really target fat loss. You have to kind of fix the whole system. And again, light in your eyes, light on your skin. The leptin is in your fat cells. So your skin literally needs to be outside, solar panel-like, and getting sunlight on it. So those leptin receptors, and the leptin in the fat is programmed with the right wavelengths of light when it goes to the brain. If you're always sitting inside, getting blue light from your technology and your LEDs, your leptin is basically getting zapped with that, sending that information to the brain, causing inflammation and leptin resistance most likely. But back to the cold therapy, cold thermogenesis. So the plastic surgeons can use these devices to target fat loss, but you can use cold therapy, so cold water submersion, more likely effective. Cold showers, probably not as effective. I've done both, but if you really want to try to lose weight, probably cold water submersion. You got to work your way up to it. Over time, those fat cells will shrink down, and But the better part of it is that your energy production, mitochondria, is better. Obesity, is yes somewhat of being under-muscled and not necessarily over-fat, but it's also just that the mitochondrial engines are very weak and turning food stuff into energy. So when something's inefficient, it actually gets bigger. So you sprain your ankle, it gets bigger. When you have a cardiomyopathy or a weakened heart, it gets bigger. So things that are energy inefficient get bigger. They can't hold on to that energy. So obesity is essentially a energy inefficiency problem. It's not so much that they're eating too much or too many calories in, it's just that the calories that go in and the food stuff that go in don't get effectively processed through the mitochondria. That fat cell leptin doesn't make the right signal to the brain, and the body thinks it's starving, even though food is coming into the GI tract. So it is complicated, but the good news is that it's not hard to actually start making effective change. I've previously worked in hospitals that were very big bariatric weight loss centers, and people would undergo Roux-en-Y's and gastric sleeves, and they'd lose tremendous amounts of weight quickly. But if they didn't make the lifestyle changes, and especially if they don't ultimately do the things we're talking about tonight, I don't know how long they're going to have, long-standing weight loss and healthy weight loss where the metabolism actually works right. They make their hormones effectively. If they want to get pregnant, they're easily able to get pregnant. So, weight loss surgery should be the last-ditch option. Work on your circadian rhythms first. Exercise. Exercise has an effect on weight loss, but not as much as most people think. If you're gonna, cardio yourself to death, you're probably gonna suck down too much muscle doing that. So if you're gonna, think about weight loss, yes, you do need to do physical activity. You need to be mobile, but typically recommend people do some type of resistance or strength training. I'm currently using an X3 bar with some variable resistance to do muscle stimulation, doing a lot of body weight exercises. I'm not trying to get bulky or anything like that, just giving the muscles stimulus to make the myokines and hormones that I want my body to respond to. So those are the things I wanted to share with you guys tonight about the COVID-15 or the COVID-20 or whatever people are calling it. I definitely did put on probably 5-8 pounds last March, April, and I started coming off, and then now doing 75 hard, back to my carrying weight, and body fat percentage is back down to exactly where I want it to be. Not saying that I'm anything special, but I will definitely follow my own advice. I'm not going to tell my patients or friends or followers to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. That's the essence of biohacking, is do the experiment, see what the change is, report back, and if it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. So thank you guys for your attention. I will open up to questions. When the questions roll in, we'll answer them as they come. This was recorded. This will be up on my IG channel when we're done chatting. It'll also be up on my YouTube channel. It's Michael Twyman MD on YouTube. I previously was talking about some of the blue blocking glasses. There's multiple manufacturers that I've previously tried. Some of the better brands that I use, they're up on my website. It's apollocardiology.com. Apollo Cardiology is my practice in St. Louis that focuses on heart attack and stroke prevention. So if you're interested in that type of line of work as well, just drop me a message. But my website, apollocardiology.com, there's a tab called resources. Click on resources, drop down, there's free resources. And then there's 3 or 4 different blue blocking glasses companies that I recommend. Most of them will have a discount code. If it's not listed on the website, the discount code is always Apollo, APOLLO. And Apollo was the sun god. He was also the god who's was the father of Asclepius, the god of medicine, so that made sense. So this is why I'm always talking about the optimization of light environments, sunlight, and health. So let's open up to the questions now. So I know somebody posted on my wall that they were going to watch tonight, and always think of me when they're out watching sunrise in the morning. That's excellent. They said they had a couple pounds that they had gained during COVID, and that's was extremely common. People get into their out of their routines, and they start essentially binge eating information and food that their body doesn't need. They're usually stuck to their phones, their tablets, their TVs, stuck inside away from Mother Nature, and then they halt. They eat because they're hungry, they're angry, they're lonely, or they're tired, or all four of them. And then they're eating not when their body is hungry. Their hormones are off, and I'm not going to go too much into the ghrelin, adiponectin levels tonight, but if your ghrelin levels and adiponectin are all off, you're eating just because you want to be eating. And that information, the mitochondria eventually have to take care of that stuff. They strip it down into protons and electrons, and there's reactive oxygen species, and things start rusting, as you keep putting fuel through your carburetors. So, and alcohol also was a big kind of issue, especially in the early days of the pandemic. I definitely partaked in a few Zoom happy hours, and when the world was much more uncertain. But you eventually have to realize that the white man, or I should say the white knight on a horse isn't coming, and you have to take care of yourself. And so, focusing on your nutrition, your exercise, your stress management, your sleep. So take care of yourself, and this pandemic or the next pandemic is not likely to affect you as much. All right. I have a question. At what point is food no longer considered, quote, local in your opinion? Is there a certain distance you have in mind? Ideally, it's actually your latitude. So if you're down in Florida, whatever's the same latitude as Tampa would be, quote, local enough. Probably a few degrees of latitude around there. You're definitely fine eating stuff more north of you. It's just more when you're eating stuff that's extremely tropical, out of season. So pineapples in like November probably would not be even local in your environment. All right, question. I'm post-heart attack by 2 years, plant-based diet. Is there any possible way to go off statins? I see there's a divide over the use of them and what they do to the body. I've talked about this in previous talks. Statins, they're a tool. And people who benefit the most from statins are the ones who have had previous events. They've had a heart attack, they've had a stroke, they got a stent, they got bypass surgery, and they're trying to prevent the second event. Statins help lower inflammation, they help stabilize plaque, and yes, they lower ApoB-containing particles, which is very important to reducing the risk of recurrent plaque buildup in the arteries. So is there a way to come off of it? There is, but you need to work with somebody who's skilled in managing that and checking advanced lipid particles to know, okay, the particle count is improved, that the inflammatory markers, the oxidized phospholipids, the other inflammatory markers, high sensitivity CRP, myeloperoxidase, LPP2, all those are normal, you're insulin sensitive, then those people are lower risk. Maybe the statin isn't as beneficial in that cohort of patients. Actually, next week, I'm going to be doing a chat on the here Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time on the Max Pulse device that I have in my office at Apollo Cardiology. The Max Pulse looks like that, little box, hooks up to a computer, and it measures your pulse wave analysis. It's a little finger probe, and it's looking at the elasticity of your arteries. If you have springy elastic arteries, the arteries are healthy. If you have, essentially lead pipes and the blood goes really fast through them, the arteries are still sick. You're much more likely to be putting plaque still down in the arteries. Those are the people that should continue statin use until they fix what's damaging their arteries. If you have springy arteries and you work with me, I'll have a conversation with you, risk benefits of coming off the statin. All right. You're very welcome. If you have any other questions, just shoot me a message in the comments or send me a direct message as well. And I have a lot of content on my YouTube channel, as well as my website, apollocardiology.com on that. All right, well, wait for a few more minutes for the questions to roll in. As I said, next week talking about max pulse wave analysis. So it's one of the kind of new things I've added to the practice lately that looks at arterial health. We previously talked about the CT coronary calcium score, kind of a late finding that you're calcifying your arteries, but generally happens before people have symptoms. It's done at a freestanding radiology center or a hospital. We also do carotid intimal medial thickness scans, ultrasounds of the neck artery, looking at vascular age and inflammation of the artery. So previously talked about those ones, but next week's going to be about pulse wave analysis. And then actually in 2 weeks, I'll be doing a little bit more deep dive into cold thermogenesis. I'll probably have to do a little bit more experimenting on myself with it just to be able to be current on my knowledge on it. But I can actually have an expert. I'll keep it a little bit secret of what that's going to be all about, but it's going to be somebody you guys are going to want to tune in to learn more from. Definitely going to get some mindset ideas on how to do it more effectively and how to convince yourself that you'll get through it. All right, so somebody says, I do cardio 5 days a week. The doctor ordered and I'm bringing weights back into my workouts as post-heart attack, 45-year-olds, what's a safe plan? So without knowing your full story, I can't give you an exact prescription for it, but you listen to your body. The cardio is, essentially you should be able to hold a conversation for the most part. Zone 2 type training, so low and slow. And again, I've done a previous talk on zone 2 type training. That is a very efficient aerobic type of way to build your mitochondrial base. Once your aerobic metabolic mitochondrial base is strong enough, then you can get more into the interval type training. And then, the resistance training, basically work with a trainer who can show you, make sure you don't have any orthopedic issues that they need to be concerned about. And then once you're in a routine with that, stick with it. Question, as we have more sunlight later in the day, does that open up your eating window longer? It does in ways. I mean, the rough estimate is, just eat when it's light out and eat outside. That's for everybody. It's general recommendation. If somebody's trying to reverse a more chronic disease, they're really trying to optimize body composition, no, they probably do need to stay in a tighter window. Those are the people I'd recommend 10 hours or less. If they want to start a little bit later in the morning time and finish later, they could, but to benefit muscle protein synthesis and to really help the leptin receptor in the brain know essentially your fuel gauge, it's best to eat within half an hour of sunrise and then finish earlier. So finish 10 hours after sunrise essentially would probably be that recommendation for that person if they're got a chronic disease or really trying to optimize body composition. All right, do we have any other questions coming in tonight? Oh, you're welcome. You guys got the perfect patio to do the meal plan outside all the time. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining. This was an interesting one, and I had a lot of requests to go over kind of my ideas of weight loss. It's much more complicated than calories in, calories out, but the principles of control your light environment, eat seasonally, those are going to be mainstays you're going to hear me keep talking about. So we'll be back again next Monday night, 6 p.m. Central Time, and we'll be talking about the max pulse. And in 2 weeks, we'll talk more about the cold therapy. So have a good week, and we'll see you guys next time.